Sure.
What's good, y'all? This is Robert here, and thank you very much for tuning in to or watching the podcast. And today we have he needs no introduction. We have Mr. Leigh Joel Scott in the corner with me today. How are you doing, my good sir?
Robert, I'm well. I always like when people say he needs no introduction and then goes ahead and introduces someone. I think that's my favorite thing. My plan is when I host the Emmys at some point to say the man who needs no introduction and then just walk off stage and see who walks on. So yes,
Then
thank you for having me, Robert.
yeah, and then the guest just walks up on the stage anyway.
Yeah, if they know it's them, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to have you on. So I guess the first question to ask is, how's life going? Like, I know we're in the new year, 2022 has come and gone, and now we're in 23. So yeah, just give us a rundown of what you've been up to as of late,
What
and
have I
just life in general. Yeah.
what have I been up to? What have I been? Well, I made butterscotch cookies and I played piano. So that was my day. But professional wise, I have been working on a new project that's coming out later this year that I'm show running, which is very exciting. And I am also working on a kids podcast right now, which I absolutely love, called Zoe's Mythical Menagerie. And what else is going on? Just auditioning as much as humanly possible and working on some new scripts, trying to stay as focused as I can.
Oh, totally, yeah. Definitely sounds like you got a lot going on, and yeah, you got some neat little projects, which you kind of just I guess you plugged right there just for self promo this early on. So,
I mean,
which is a
I,
good thing.
I, yeah, have to get it out there. I have to get out the plug as quick as possible.
Oh,
But
totally, yeah.
Zoe's will be out at some point later on in the other project. I can't even plug properly. I can't even mention yet. But
Oh,
yeah, so the
darn
plugs they're not
NDAs.
even good plugs, Robert. They're not even good. But the projects are, the plugs are terrible. But I'll see what else is coming up. Don't worry, I have more to plug later. Don't you worry.
Okie dokie. So I guess with all of that out of the way, so what So I know this is kind of something that I've asked like literally all the time here, but what is your little origin story? How did you get started in this whole like crazy, just wacky, all this nonsense that everybody's doing now? So what's
Nonsense
your start? Yes.
uh like in my career, like voiceover stuff.
Well, not nonsense, but more like yeah, how did you get started with this whole like, crazy spiel that, like voiceover just with your career in general?
Uh
How did your journey or adventure start?
the very first time I went into acting, my mum's friend was visiting, and I was all of 4 years old and walking around the house and singing opera at the age of 4 or something. And my mum's friend looked at me, and I remember her looking down at me, and she said, "Lynn, that's my mum's name." She said, "Lynn, your son is too weird to do anything else, so get him in acting classes." And so that was the very first moment I went in. And in regards to voiceover, a dear friend of mine, Tony Alvarez, who has worked in everything from he's been in Jurassic Park Camp Cretaceous, which is a delightful Netflix series. He's been in um not God of War, Call of Duty. He's all over the place. He's incredible. He had this agent, voiceover agent, and I was looking to get into voiceover, and he said, go and do a class with her. And I did. And the second I stood in the booth, it was like that scene in Harry Potter where he gets the wand and the light turns on. It was pretty much that moment. So as it turns out, I like being locked in a padded cell. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, totally. And since you've been doing a lot of VO related work, you've done directing, you've done a lot of other stuff. So I guess with your experience of working as an actor, um, how did it really help you? develop your skills when you started taking into the when you started directing, like being on the other side of the glass?
The directing stuff that is, for some reason, when you Google me, there's on the side of Google, on the right hand side, there's a picture of me, and it says film director or something. And I don't know who updates that. I don't know where they got that information, but I've never directed a film in my life. I mean, I'd be willing to and take the paycheck right to the bank, but the directing I've done has mainly been on self-produced projects, short films, and a web series called Fickle, which I wrote and created, directed some of it, but that was mainly directed by other people as well. There's very little I've actually directed, mainly because I much prefer being in front of the camera. I much prefer being a narcissist, of course, rather than, the quietly appreciated artist. Forget that. I'm sitting at a trestle table signing autographs with people lined around the corner. That's where I want to be. Yeah, rather than the quiet artistic director, which there's nothing wrong with, and I respect directors wholeheartedly. It's just not a skill that I really have, and it's not really something that calls me forth. But I do write. I write a lot. I've written a few Christmas movies that have come out, another one's coming out at the end of this year, called Swipe Right for Christmas. Very, very charming. And a couple of other bigger projects which are being pitched at the moment, but it's not so much directing as it is writing, which I think acting training and all the acting I've done makes me, I'd say, have a sharper lens, ironically, for not being a director, to look at a script and go, how does a human being speak? Because sometimes you get scripts and you're like, who wrote this? What AI wrote this horrible mess? So I think acting helps you be a better writer, to understand where you're sitting, I suppose.
Oh yeah, yeah, and totally speaking as another writer, it's like when you're coming up with scenarios and the character interactions, it's like, okay, so if I were this character, how would I react? Or if I was in this situation, how would it be? Okay, so I can try this and come up
Mm.
with, and then sometimes you just kind of write stuff off the how did they say it? Right out from the seat of your pants or something? Yeah. I think it's kind of like something that just kind of comes organically as you start coming up with so you have a scene in your mind, and then for the dialogue, you just kind of, you know, it's just kind of flows as you go along. That's sort of my process. I can't really speak for everyone, but yeah, it's just kind of like, and it's so interesting because I know they say that being a writer can help you be a better actor, which I can definitely attest to that because there's a lot of because when you're writing a character that if you're playing or somebody else is playing, and then you get to see your vision come to life on the big screen, whether it's through collaborations with other people or just mainly because it's kind of pretty much it's is your voice, and it's kind of like you're taking care of a child in a way, if that's like a really cheesy analogy to put it, but that's just kind of how I see it for the most part. If you have
Mm.
anything to add to that, just go ahead.
Sure. Well, the idea of sort of letting it flow, when I was younger and I started writing stuff, I was going in unprepared and unplanned, and I was an arrogant little sod. Now I'm an arrogant big sod, but I was an arrogant little sod, and I thought, oh, I've seen enough movies. I don't have to train to be a writer or anything. I'll just do it. And it's sort of, now that I have done a lot of educating myself on how to actually write, I look back at the first things I did, and I wish I could mentally put it in a paper shredder. And when I'm met with people now, I think that it's very similar with voiceover in regards to people who aren't in the business look at that part of the business and think that it's easy. Voice acting is a difficult profession, and so is writing. Writing's very difficult. Because it looks so, you go to work in your pajamas as a voice actor and you just stand in a booth and do silly voices. And I know I've had experience with writers who have a Mac and Final Draft, and they say, well, I can write a script, I've seen movies. And I always say, go buy a basketball. Are you immediately in the NBA? No, you're not. You just have a basketball now and you're going to look like an idiot. And there are some people who are idiot savants and they are, immediately successful. But I think it requires a lot more discipline, education, and training than I think people give creatives credit for.
Yeah. So I could just talk about writing like literally all day, but I do have other questions for you. So
Certainly.
yeah, I know you mentioned Harry Potter earlier. How is it like getting to actually work on? Because part of the, I guess, what actors do is they kind of ponder like, you know what would be great? It would be fun if I worked on a property like something that I grew up with. Like I know in your case it was Harry Potter. So, how was your experience of getting to work on Hogwarts Mystery in
That
video?
was a lot of fun. I really enjoy. I mean, I grew up watching Harry Potter. I love, and I read the books first, and it was a delightful experience. As I mean, everyone on Earth has seen Harry Potter or read the books. But being a part of it, I got to play Crab, which is Malfoy's offsider, um, and it was exciting to be a part of it and getting to say the spells. And I'm also a very small part in the upcoming Hogwarts Legacy game that's coming out on PS5 that looks incredible. And I'm at Blink and you'll miss me. If you can find me in the game Hogwarts Legacy, I'll give you $10,000 because I have two very small parts. But to know that in the game, I mean, but it is delightful to be a part of it, even in the very, very small way I am. I got to say some spells. I get to tread that sacred ground. What's funny about being a part of these video games is that I don't play a lot of video games, and so I very rarely get to hear myself. So it most of the time takes me ages and ages to sort of scour YouTube for people playing the game to try and scrub through and find myself. And do you know what's funny is I've never heard myself in Hogwarts Mystery, that Harry Potter mobile game as Crab. I've never heard myself. So if anyone out there has played the game and found me, please record it so I can hear me. I remember what I sounded like, but I can't remember what I said exactly, except for Expelliarmus.
Yeah, you've also been in some other video games as of late, like Demon Souls, and like seriously, like I could just pull up IMDb or like your website portfolio and just list off everything that you've done. But I will say, I wanted to ask, um, was there any specific project that you've done? You can also talk about Demon Souls if you like, but is there anything else that comes to mind that you've also really enjoyed working on that you just had an absolute, like, you just had a lot of fun doing over the years?
Yeah, the well, I enjoyed um being a part of any project. I always think it's quite incredible to be given the chance. The statistically the likelihood of getting employment in the voiceover industry is minute beyond belief. But another project that I there was a project I had a really great time on playing and it wasn't Harry Potter. It was something different, but the character I was playing was a playable character, and it was a British person who knew magic and was killing these dragons. So I'm sure it was a Harry Potter knockoff of some sort. It was the first big thing I'd ever done. I was a playable character. I walked out of that session and was like, yeah, I'm going to buy the game. I'm going to buy the poster. People are going to play the game as me. And then a month month or two later, I the PS5 was announced, and I got an email from my agent saying, "Hey, remember that British thing where you were killing dragons?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't wait for it to come out." And they were like, "Well, you're gonna have to keep waiting. The game has been cancelled because it was made for PS4, and they're not gonna make it eventually. They're not gonna make it after all because the
Mm.
PS5 is coming out. So you can go to hell." But the game, so that was a lot of fun to work on. But another thing I had a great time working on was Koala Man, which is an animated series on Hulu created by the um, incomparable Michael Cusack, who is a balls to the wall wild man, sort of well maintained, but he's unhinged beyond belief. And I adore him. I think he's a great collaborator. I think he creates a fun session. He lets you improvise a bunch. In Koala Man, I play a man named Red Tiggle, who is like the red, or Red Tiggly, who's like the red wiggle. And he's a villain, and so playing a villain was so much fun, and being able to eat kids was lots of fun, and I got to sing in it, and I got to do a bit of improv, and I got to scream, and I got to lure people into their doom. It was great fun.
Yeah. But I'm kind of sorry about the cancellation, but then again, it
Oh, that's okay.
showcase. Yeah.
Happens all the time. The very first
Yeah,
I
it
think the
does.
commercial when I was a kid, I was playing young Hugh Hefner. I was like 13, but it was like in the commercial, it was a kid trying to be Hugh Hefner. So I had on this like robe, I had a tea towel around my neck like a cravat. There was like pictures of myself that I had edited my face onto these like guys with six packs and stuff. That's what the character had done. Me, I kept those photos at home, but the ones on set were all edited by someone else, and it was all around. And it was for this. I won't say the brand, but it was for a prize. So you do the thing, you consume the product, and you can win a prize to come to LA and like get $10,000 and go to a movie set and all that stuff. And I kept getting calls from my agent this is when I was living in Australia. I kept getting calls from my agent saying, "Leigh, they shot like a series of the commercials and they love yours the best. Yours is the funniest. You know what? They it's amazing. They're actually going to air it longer. So here's more money. And you know what? They're going to put it on billboards as well. So here's money for billboards. And you know what else? They're also going to play it during the Australian version of the Super Bowl. So here's even more money. You're a hero. You're the king. Wee.
My
And
God,
one day when I was,
stop.
my head couldn't fit through doors at that point, but I was swimming in a pool out the back of my house. My dad walked up and he leant over the fence and he goes, "Leigh." We're back.
Like, I have no idea what just happened, but
That's okay. Did
yeah,
you hear anything? How long was I chatting for?
I think you were talking about billboards, like getting
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
everything. So continue.
Oh, so I was going to be on these. Michelle kept calling, saying, "You know what? They loved it so much. They're like making you the face of this competition, and they're going to put you on billboards, and then they're going to make you the like main commercial during the Australian version of the Super Bowl. You're the king. You're the king." And I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." My head couldn't fit through doors for a while. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to be rolling in this cash. I'm going to be pretty much like famous in Australia." It was very exciting. And then I'm swimming in the pool we have out the back, and my dad walked up out of the house and leant over the fence, and he goes, "Leigh," and I was like, "Yes, Papa." And he said, "Yeah, Michelle just called." Michelle is my agent. He goes, "Michelle just called about the commercial. They've cancelled it. They've cancelled it, and it's not going to be at the Super Bowl or on billboards or on TV at all, because someone, the client, saw the cut of the commercial and went, "Huh, I don't think it's good to have a kid impersonate Hugh Hefner. I think it sexualizes children." And so, even though I did nothing particularly raunchy, so it's swings and roundabouts. The whole industry, nothing's predictable. Yeah, you can't really have a stake on anything till a check's in your hand. Even when you end up as the final two or three for a lead in a theatrical production, a film or a TV show or whatever. I think it's a TV show. If you're a regular in a TV show at the final three or final two, when you go in, you sign a contract saying this is how much money you're going to make when you book the lead. And you look at that money and you're like immediately visualizing all the jet skis and giraffes you'd buy. And then, sorry, it goes to the other person. So forget what you signed. It didn't mean anything. Goes to the other person because they look slightly more like the adult. It's you can't count on anything. Even with a contract signed, you can't count on anything. How fun's that?
Oh, yeah. Mm,
Mm.
I'm gonna. Oh, yeah. Thanks for the reminder. I need a moment.
Oh God, of course. Of course. Robert, what sparked you reaching out to me?
Oh, that actually segues into the next question, but yeah, I'm pretty much just like that is actually an interesting question. So, like,
Good.
I mean, I just stalk people and just be like, hey, maybe just I'm kidding. That's not. I mean, that's half true, but no, like, I kind of because I just like to have people on where I just talk to them and because whether they have like very fascinating backgrounds or just like they've done work in the industry and they are currently producing content,
Mhm.
like you mentioned earlier, you're doing this stuff with like with the Zoe thing and that we're going to be talking about coming up, and and then doing further research, I was like, oh my gosh, wow, they did Harry Potter. I'm like, oh my God, Casagrandes, Rainbow High, they were on freaking Conan, and I'm like, okay, maybe, and also I haven't really had like a lot of like British actors on my show. So I just wanted to branch out to like, I mean, I've had people that are in Australia. I've had people that were from like I mean, I've had UK related based actors before, but not like those that are working in LA and they have done a lot of work. They booked, I mean, people who originally they have British, like have backgrounds and they're in LA still working. I'm not sure if I've done one where I've had like a guest that is from originally from Britain and moved to. I mean, what is your story? I mean, are you originally from the UK and then you made your move to LA at some point? Yeah,
Well,
I'm just kind of curious about your little
oh
story
dear
and
Robert.
background.
Dear
Yeah.
Robert. Well, I know you said that it's exciting to have me here because you haven't had someone from who moved from England to LA to work, and I hate to disappoint you, but you still haven't had someone from England who moved to LA, because I'm Australian, but pretty
Australia. Yeah.
yes, which is like England's Texas. So, yeah, but I moved to LA 8 years ago, to pursue on camera acting and writing, and I still pursuing writing, but not so much on camera stuff anymore. That took a back seat once I found true happiness of being locked in a padded cell, and talking to myself. So, but yeah, it was an interesting move. Takes a while to get a visa. Not that I want to bore you with the details of a visa, but I will tell you the um, accumulation of evidence you need leads to, because it was acting and writing, led to a file as thick as a phone book, times two, one for acting and one for writing. The amount of evidence and letters of recommendation and a sponsorship, and oh God, it's exhausting. But yeah, people on an O1 visa have to do that every 3 years, and the government just vacuums up about $10,000 from you so you can stay here for another 3 years. It cost me $6.58 a day to be in this country. Um,
Wow.
and it sometimes I'm like, $6, is it worth it? But no, it's ultimately pretty amazing. I'm glad I moved here because the industry in Australia is about this big. So yeah.
I mean, I do know, like, actually, wait. No, I don't think she will. I mean, I did have Australian guests, but they haven't made the move to LA. But they have done a lot of big remote work. Like, I know that some of them have worked with like YouTubers. They've done work for like international commercials, video games, and anime. So it's like, um, I guess if there's like one, yeah, sun in my eyes. But if there's like anything that is like, that is a huge plus about this whole, like ordeal that we've been in since like I don't know 3-ish years or so. It's like a lot of people have done they booked so much work doing remotely. I think, in my opinion, VO has kind of like it's been on like an uphill trajectory since the pandemic, if I'm going to be honest, because when you look at, because I know that a lot of folks have worked in studios before, they've done work, but I know that there's still companies that prefer talent to actually go into a session like in studio, but for the most part, I know that people that have landed agents, like they've booked agencies, they've booked video games, and they've done a lot of this work like from their home studios. Like somebody from, let's say, if they're in California and they're doing work for like Funimation or Crunchyroll in Texas, like I will say that getting into the industry, like I know that the resources, like it's still not entirely 100% easy to break into, but it's easier. Like there's a lot of resources that you can look into online, and online I think there's really no better time to start like VO than just how it is like in the last 1 to 2 years or so. That's pretty much what I've been noticing with like a lot of changes that have been going on, and just so many like actors that are just getting their start and they're just crushing it. I know that everyone's different, and it's kind of like, you know, if something works, it just works. I don't know everybody's success story because everyone's totally different. I know your story is different from mine's, and you know, and the other person that and your friends, because everybody is on their journey is totally different from the other person. That's just pretty much the main point that's just the bottom line that I'm trying to
Yeah,
make here.
there's
Yeah.
no one way of success. There's also no one definition of success. I've definitely found a redefinition of the word success in my life, a few times at forks in the road. But breaking into voiceover, it's great that people are doing it from home studios. So yeah, you can be almost anywhere. There are still a lot of people that prefer you to go into the studio, and honestly, I prefer to go into the studio. I mean, who wouldn't want to walk through the gates at Nickelodeon? Who would much rather stay in their own house? I can't think of anyone. But the accessibility for recording has increased a billionfold because of the home studios.
Totally. Absolutely. So
Mm.
yeah, I guess we could just talk about the main reason that I reached out to you. But I also wanted to talk to you about this other stuff that you do, not just specifically, the main topic supposedly for this interview. Salt and Sea Studios, because that it recently just got announced, and you're working on you said Zoe's Mythical Adventure. Hope I'm getting it right. So yeah, how's it like getting to work with, the team, the Salt and Sea Squad,
Oh,
as I like to
yeah,
call
they're I
them.
mean they're wonderful. So Salton Sea Studios is owned and operated by voiceover actor Brittany Cox, who's she's Nancy Drew, she's in Genshin Impact,
Oh, she is amazing. Yeah.
she's pretty yeah, she's all right, I guess. Yeah, she's fine. But she's so there's Brittany Cox, her husband Ryan Ricks, who's a wonderful audio genius. Um, he's a terrific composer, and he's currently directing Zoe's Mythical Menagerie. So Zoe's Mythical Menagerie came out, or came about rather, a couple of years ago. I've known Brittany and Ryan for years and years, and we're working on a different show and pitching it around. And unfortunately, at the exact time we were pitching this show, a show of very similar nature got sold to Disney. So it was like we were a week behind selling our show because one that was similar was just sold. So in a in something of a stupor that evening. Um, we were sitting around, um, regaling our failures and and what we can prolong and how we can best go about it. And I said something to the effect of, well, we could just come up with something else instead, something instead of whatever the name of this other show we were pitching. I swapped it out for alternative things. So instead of whatever it was, I was like, why don't we do Zoe's mythical menagerie? Do that. And then it's just all about mythical creatures and whatever. And we all like laughed and I spilled whiskey and then we're all chatting and then Ryan and Brittany went, that's not a bad idea. And from that point forth, we just sort of worked on Zoe's mythical menagerie for ages, and it's been very freeing and exciting. We had a whole pitch deck and things ready to go. But one day we were sitting around talking, and Brittany and Ryan of Salton Sea Studios, Brittany and Ryan said to me, why don't we're going to do it ourselves instead. We're not going to wait because you waiting around for a phone to ring is exhausting. So it's much more liberating to take control of your own destiny. And so that's what we did. And Brittany and Ryan, to their credit, really stepped up to the plate as both directors. Ryan sort of directed the whole show overall, and Brittany was the voice director. We all sort of worked together on the whole thing, as a trio, but ultimately they AP'd the show, and so they hired a casting director, and we got to hire some incredible talent, including Caitlin, the woman who voices Minnie Mouse. She voices Aunt Ness. So the lead character Zoe has an aunt who teaches her things, Aunt Ness, and I play Zoe's sidekick, the fusspot Lipton, who is a koala butterfly. But it honestly, the most creative work came out of heartbreak, I suppose, which is good when you're down in the dumps. Create something because it might just be great.
Man, yeah.
Mm.
Speaking from experience, um, but yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't think I think another question that I had was how did you actually get involved? But you mentioned that you've known them for years and then you've worked together on numerous projects beforehand. So,
Yeah.
actually, how did you guys actually met? Like meeting with Ryan and Brittany in particular, and eventually the rest of the crew.
Oh, sure. So Brittany, Brittany and I met. Brittany and I met in I want to say this as generic as possible so it's not traceable, but we met in an acting class, in a voiceover class,
Mhm.
where it was dubbing. It was a dubbing class, and I was not good at it. I was, to be honest, I was shite at dubbing and bloody awful. But I really practiced to get better. But I went into this class. I was excited. I went and did my bit. I went and sat down back behind the glass, and Brittany went in and to do some dubbing, and it goes beep beep beep, and then Brittany went and did her dubbing, and I went, Jesus, she's great. And then everyone else who went and got up and did it, I was like, I was like losing my mind. I was like, I know I wasn't good, but what is happening here? Because these people, the rest of the people that got up to do it were like, they've never, I think a lot of them were fans of anime and they weren't necessarily actors. So it was a big difference between Brittany, who's an expert, and me, who's floundering like a
Like a
fish,
fish.
just like a
Yeah.
mess. And then fans of anime who really sort of a few of them got quite overwhelmed and excited by what they were doing, and sort of fangirled, and they hadn't had that much acting training before, and I'm sure all of them are now off being roaring successes. However, after the after the class, or I think during a break, Brittany was sitting next to me, and I just sort of turned to Brittany and went, well, you're good. And Brittany went, so are you. And I was like, great. And then we became friends. And that was pretty much it. Love at first sight. We went and hung out, and then we went and got drinks with Ryan, her husband, and he and I hit it off. He's just a delightful, delightful man, very kind and earnest, and takes a lot of pride in his work. And it was just a wonderful trio to be a part of. They're really excellent collaborators. Yeah, so I met them through voiceover. I realize you asked a question that could have one sentence as an answer, but instead I give you 90 years worth of information instead
I
of
mean,
one sentence. But yeah, that's it. Did you want to we've got 4 minutes up. Do you want to restart this, or what would you like to do? You're the
yeah.
boss.
Let me just do this real quick. Here we go.
Recording in progress. Brilliant.
Oh, that'll be a fun job.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
girl
anyway,
what's her name, Shelby Young, she's incredible. She does, if you look her up on Instagram and TikTok, she's a very energetic person who does a whole bunch of impressions, but she does a great Siri impression. So she's, yeah, she could have that gig any day of the week. Anyway,
well,
forget her. This isn't about her. Go to hell, Shelby. This is about me.
yeah, this is about you and the work that you do with Solid. But
Yeah,
yeah,
God
y'all
damn
met.
it, Shelby.
Anyways, we discussed how y'all met, and yeah, it was in a class. So I kind of had to wonder, like, it was like, Brittany was good, you were here, and then everybody else was like, but it's kind of really true because it kind of I I mean, I'm not throwing like, shade to anybody. Like, if you're fans of anime, that's totally fine. 100%. We're not like shaming those that are like fans of the work. But there is a big difference when it comes to um, because, like I said, it's totally fine to be a fan, but as somebody who is actively pursuing, a career in whatever it is that you want to do in life, it can be animation, anime, or just do anything in all sorts. It's like, yeah, um, there's a large difference. And how can I put this? Um, it's like, you're a fan of baseball and then you're actually pursuing a career like taking swings. It's like there's a lot more that goes into VO than just like, having that doing like that doing okay okay, how can I
You're doing
describe
great.
this? It's a voice. It's like doing the uwu or the kawaii stuff. It's like I know that a lot of people think that it's more about doing voices, like how many different voices you could do. But there's more that goes into it. Of course, there's the acting. Um, there's acting. There's also, home studios and the business side, which that's a whole different, like, episode in and of itself. But yeah, but for the most part, yeah, there's a lot of people that like even though they haven't really had like an extensive acting background, like they definitely grew their craft. Like they definitely grew like really quick. Like I've been in workshops with students and people that have gone into Genshin Impact. I was in a class with Christina Costello. She's in Genshin. Just giving you a shout out, Christina. Love you. You're doing great out there, and just a bunch of other students that have been looking like Fire Emblem, and really, it's just like having a passion and having a true burning craft of like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. Like this is something that I cannot escape from. And if you have a clear respect for the work, um, for like video games and animation and stuff that you grew up with, it's gonna show. And that's apparently it was the case with you when you did Harry Potter, and I know it's the case with some of the previous guests that I've had on. Like you just don't know where this crazy journey is going to take you.
No, it's
Just
all
put your best
it's
foot
all
forward. Yeah,
unpredictable for sure.
it's totally, yeah.
There's no way to know exactly where you're going to be. People say, they put together a 10-year and a 5-year and a 2-year goal list and what
Oh
they want.
yeah, yeah.
And I do that. I understand that. That is definitely helpful for me for like driving me towards that goal. But just, writing a goal down do anything. Like just saying, I want to do cartoons doesn't do anything.
Yeah. You have to be
You've got
specific.
to
Like,
put
what cartoons do you want to
in,
do? Yeah.
yeah, and you've got to put in the work of people that say, oh, everyone in the office says I do the best Gollum impression. Like I should be doing
Okay.
voiceover stuff. It's like
Yeah.
that's really good, and there's a place for that, and if you strike gold, that's superb. But I think a lot of people forget that it's not just voice, it's voice acting. You have to
Yeah.
be able to act, you have to be
It's
able
like,
to have a motive and a feeling and a variation. And
it's,
yeah, a lot of people don't, who
it's-
think it's easy, I think, miss out on the training aspect.
oh yeah. It's like playing baseball without a bat, you know? You have
Mm.
to swing and pitch and, if
Even
we're going
playing
to use
baseball
that in
with a bat.
sports,
If
yeah.
if I like baseball and I want to go play baseball, I'm gonna suck at it because I haven't trained at it.
Yeah.
I also have no
Training is
hand-eye
important.
coordination, so
Yeah.
who, yeah, training's
Yeah.
very.
Because I know they teach in voiceover, like, they teach, there's like, and also going back to like where everybody is different, training is also another, you know, it's another thing too, because it's like, one coach is going to be perfect for somebody, but not really for another person, which is totally okay because like everybody works differently.
Mm.
If like, trust me, if everybody was like, if we're all completely the same, then it's like, okay, well, how do I how do I do this? Because it's like I want to hire this one person for the job, but everyone's sounding exactly the same, which is, it's important to have variety.
Mm.
And then how I usually how I see it is that you study with one coach, and then you do a class, and then you take something that stands out to you in a class, and then you add your own unique flavor because it's like
Yeah.
you can't just exactly copy what this person has done that made their performance stand out. Like you gotta have your own unique. Like what is something that makes you unique? And it's a part of like be yourself or like be just you. And I know that it's gonna sound cheesy when I say this. It's like be yourself, but it's like it's so true. It's very true. Like if you're playing a character, because I know that people say that people are more comfortable being in the skin of a different character, and I totally see that. I get that. Um, it's a part of like if you're running your business, it's like being the best. Like what is it about you that is unique? What is it that just stands out from like say this other person who has a website or this other company? So that's kind of something that's because knowing your business stuff and I mean being a solid actor is important, but like having a good business sense can also it's also very like I know people um because when it comes to VO, a lot of people don't think about the business aspects. They want to focus more on like doing different characters or voices, which is not bad, but like you mentioned earlier, somebody doing a good Gollum voice, but getting a good performance, that's the challenge
Mm.
right then and
Definitely.
there.
The
Yeah.
business can the business is tricky too.
Oh yeah.
There's pay to play websites, and people,
Oh
and
yeah.
they have a place. God bless them. And people work up a good business on those. People will find repeat clients if someone does, like, lottery commercials in Ohio, but they do it through this pay to play website. They might have that client repeat, and you can't just sit around forever and wait for the phone to ring, because you'll be on your deathbed by the time the phone does. You've got to get off your butt and connect with people, and that's part of why classes are great. Not only are you staying on top of your game and introducing yourself to new people, but you're also um, I really despise the term networking. You're not networking, you're making new connections.
Yeah.
And that's part of the whole business.
Oh, that's good to hear because I'm also personally like, not to rain on anyone's parade, but I don't really like the word networking. That's part of the reason why I kind of do this is that, because, I would like to make more connections. I would want to talk to more people in the industry like you, and just learning more about the business and learning more about what goes on, the ins and outs of the industry, and I'm just really passionate about this. And if you really start making genuine, solid connections with people, then that is gonna be like I know people. I know. Sometimes the saying is like having a good supportive friend group can really take you far, and it's true. I will also say that um, making genuine connections, not forcing yourself, not pressuring, or, I mean, trust me, we've all made mistakes. We've all been there before, myself included, but just making like friendships and connections, they do take a while. And if there's one thing that I wish I learned when I first started out, it's patience. Because being patient with getting to know people and just talking with them, and then you realize, oh, hey, they're just like me. They also like this stuff. They're kind of awkward and nerdy, just like me. So it's like, it really is a small world. Like the VO industry is not like on camera or if you're going into theater or on stage, because the VO community can, well, I mean, with some exceptions, but for the most part, everybody is just, I mean, with you guys in particular, I know that y'all just started your own studios and whatnot, so it's like collaborating with people and just making, strong connections, which is something that I've been hammering down, so I apologize. But it's just the bottom line is everybody just wants each other to succeed. We all want each other to get better and improve and, just um and just really have the best times. Despite the hardships and the, you know, we fail, we screw up, but at the end of the day, we're all pushing each other up and we got each other's backs and we're just, in it in the long haul. And not to speed run it because it's a long, long, long journey. It's a marathon. So the best that you can possibly do is enjoy the ride while it lasts because no one is guaranteed a tomorrow. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow.
Sure.
This is really all I can say. Yep, I'm gonna get off my little soapbox here.
See, I couldn't care less about anyone else's success as long as I succeed. They can go to hell. That's
Yeah.
bastards. What are you a voice actor too? Is that the main focus? Because I know you interview people from all over the spectrum of the entertainment industry. So
Yeah.
is voiceover your main focus, or obviously you're a podcast host? I don't know what else you do, dear Robert.
Yeah, so I do VO, I do this, the podcast, I make content, writing some stories, and just doing my thing because like voiceover is has always been a huge just like it's just something that just never just escaped me. So I'm like, hey, you know what? Might as well just give this a shot. So here I am.
Well, as long as
But
you're
yeah.
having a delightful time and you better be training or I'll kick your butt, then it's good.
Oh, totally. And it's, like I said, important to train and, just be a decent, solid person. Be good and just be good at what you do. And, what else can I say?
Yeah, yeah.
Totally. So okie dokie. Yeah. So besides Harry Potter, what have you been like? What's other media, I guess? Like anything that you've watched or consumed when you were a youngin and you're still watching now? Like, what is everything that has left an impact on you that is a huge influence on your life and besides the people that you're working with, Anybody else that you also consider to be very dear to your heart and just, made you into, I guess, the person that you are today, to say the least. Any influences in your life? It can be like people you work with, shows, media, just anything in general. If you want to say family, then, just be my guest. But yeah, anything that comes to mind.
Gotcha. Easy
Inspirations in
question,
your life.
Robert. Easy question. Um, Influences. Robin Williams was a massive influence on me growing up. I
I just watched a few of his movies last night, man.
uh, there'll never be someone else like him, but he
No
definitely
one.
influenced um my goals, and it's very, very difficult. He had such uh an impact on me that I can't watch his movies anymore because I get too upset. Isn't that silly? But yeah, since he passed away, I haven't been able to get through one of his movies. I tried to watch Mrs. Doubtfire
Yeah.
last year, and it got to the figure diddle 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 bum 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 bum. It did got to
All
that
the
point.
cartoon, like,
Piss
man.
off, Lou. Yeah, he did that bit, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's awful."
It's
So
like, no, it's like, that's just something that you never thought you'd hear. Like, Robin Williams passes away. It's like, but then
yeah,
again, it's like I said, nobody's guaranteed a tomorrow. So it's just really sad that, everything that he went through in his life, it just kind of sucks, man.
but
Yeah.
he was very, so he was a profound influence, and another influence
Yeah.
would be Nathan Lane,
My
who
God.
who's
Wow.
I
I
love
do not hear Nathan Lane very often, so that's just like, oh, yes, Nathan,
his
let's go.
amazing. His theatrical career, it really blows my mind. I think he's a really underrated theatrical actor,
He
and
really
everyone should
is.
know who he is. I think he
Everybody knows him as Timon, but he's done, like, his theatrical career is just
yeah.
off the chain, man.
And
Yeah.
I was watching The Addams Family. I think it was yeah, The Addams Family Values with Joan Cusack, who's another one of my influences. She's amazing
Okay.
and hilarious. But in The Addams Family Values, Nathan Lane has like three lines as a police officer. Um, and
Mhm.
then he went on to play Gomez Adams in the Addams Family musical. So everything sort of comes full circle. But you look at someone like that, and he's got a dream career going from TV to film to Broadway multiple times. And you look at him, and I always said I wanted to be the type of person where you looked at him and went, "Where have I seen that person before? Did I go to school with them, or what have they been in? Who knows?" Yeah. So he's actually got quite an astounding career. So he had Nathan Lane, Robin Williams, Joan Cusack was big. Who else do I love? Allison Janney, I think, is incredible and scary. But an influence on my voiceover career. Gosh, it would. I mean, you got Rob Paulson, of course.
Oh,
Rob Paulson,
yeah.
Maurice LaMarche, who were amazing. It was actually really, really interesting. So I watched, um, and I hope I get to tell him. I hope I get to meet him and tell him.
Oh, same.
Maurice
Yeah.
LaMarche, who voiced
Yeah.
the Brain in Pinky and the Brain. I watched that growing up. Loved his
Yeah.
voice. And then there's a video game coming out, which I'll plug later, called Shatterline. And in it, I have a playable character, but I just watched the trailer for it. And the voice of the big bad is Maurice LaMarche. And I was like, I watched you growing up, and now I'm in a game with you, a big game that's coming out on PS5. And I was
Dude.
like, sort of really blew my mind. So it's just,
Congrats, by the way.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you. It was quite humbling, I suppose, quite a shock. But
I mean, like, you've watched somebody that you've seen a show that, like, there's the voice actor, like, Marie's, like, he's also one of my all-time favorites. And it's like, you've watched him growing up and then getting to be in a game with him. That's
yeah,
wow, that is out of this world.
quite
Like, that is
incredible.
an experience that is, like, you can't even
Mm,
dude.
it was really, really
Yeah.
quite amazing.
It's surreal. Like, it's like,
Yes,
oh
surreal
my
is a good.
gosh.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like, I watched you growing up, and I can't believe I'm in this game with you. Wow. Hello.
But in regards to other influences, um, John Hughes as a writer is another influence. Who wrote
Yeah,
What a
another
King Is.
underrated. Yeah, who also unfortunately passed on. But
Yes.
yeah, very, very good at what he
Yeah,
did.
very,
Yeah,
very good stuff.
brilliant. Yeah.
And uh, a very random influence, I'd say. Whenever I play a good, whenever I audition or play a villain, one of my favorite villains is Ursula from The Little Mermaid, voiced by Pat Carroll. I think everything she does, she just is. It's just dripping with sap of evil, and it just really she like milks every moment. And
She was
that
so
in
good.
regards, yeah,
She was a great actress.
in regards to the like molasses, almost the way she spoke, that was an influence on a couple of
That
things.
is such a good way to put it. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna steal that.
Steal it, take it, send me
Yeah,
10%. But yeah, that
yeah,
was so they're my influences, I suppose.
yeah.
Remember right now, yeah.
Yeah, I have so many, man. Like Robin, of course, was one of the biggest. He was kind of one of the biggest like inspirations on me. I did get my first taste of acting through like improv and being up on stage, but voiceover never came. I mean, like it was always something that came to my mind. It's just not. It's kind of like one of those careers that like you didn't don't even know that it's you could actually pursue it as a career and make a living off of it until like years later. But Robin was kind of like the person because like how I would describe him is his ability to just he was just on like all the time. Like
Mm.
there's a lot of comedians who are like that. Like I know that Jim Carrey is also one of them. And there's a lot of great people that are just like, they are one of a kind, just this speedy, like fast pace, just this improv that they have and just the ability to just get into character like right away.
Mm.
And that was just kind of something that I was like, man, I wish I would be as good as them. And then I just stopped wishing, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna honor them. I'm gonna honor Robin and be just as good as do something that he was like. Now, remember when I said just being exactly like the person, like taking influence with them and then just applying it to your mix and then just doing your own thing.
Mm.
So if I were to be as good as he was, that would just be like, you know what? That's just like, you know, I'm doing my own thing and I'm just taking inspiration from the man who inspired me.
Sure,
And,
yeah, I think that's
yeah.
um the best you can do is take um inspiration from things. You all you can do is be the best you, be as good as Robin Williams. I mean, that's impossible, but you could be as
Oh,
I know
yeah.
people can be
Nobody.
the
Yeah.
best in their own individual sense. But the I met an actor years ago who played he was in Mary Poppins. He played Mr. Banks on in Australia. He was in the musical in Australia. An actor by the name of Philip Quast, who is I think one of the finest stage actors of all time. He was also in Les Mis in Australia, I believe. As I think Philip Quast in Les Mis was Javert, but I'll have to go back and check because Les Mis is amazing. But he was in Mary Poppins, and I was in an acting school at the time, and they were hammering Meisner. Meisner technique is the only way to go. Meisner, it's got to be Meisner. You've got to do
Yeah.
repetition. You've got to cry, or you're not a good actor. And I was like, this is some
So
absolute
many techniques.
DF.
Yeah.
I was like, this is absolute nonsense. And after seeing Mary Poppins, I saw it 2 or 3 times, and I saw Philip Quast, and I thought he stood out as the best actor on that stage. And I waited at stage door for him to come out. And my poor niece, Jordan, I dragged her along with me, and I was like, just wait with me at the stage door till Philip Quast comes out so I can ask him a question. I waited and waited and waited, and it was like midnight when he finally came out. And he's like, "Were you waiting for me?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I wish someone had told me I was here with like my parents or family or something." And I was like, "Oh hell!" But we chatted, and I was like, "Look, I'm in this school. They're forcing Meisner. like, what do you have one technique you use? What's your deal? And he said, it's got to be like you pick and choose. You study as much as you can, study all the practitioners, study with a million different teachers, and just pick what works for you. And then come up with your own Robert technique, come up with your own Leigh Scott technique, come up with what hits home for you. Because not everything's going to work for everyone. You can't be everyone's cup of tea. And you know, you might be the best tasting cup of tea in the world. But some people hate tea and they like coffee, and you can't help that. So you just got to be the best cup of tea you can. That's all I have to say about tea.
You know, funny that you mentioned tea. There is a studio in Burbank called Cup of Tea Productions, and I was like, man, that would have been a really good name. But you know, Salt and Tea, Salt and Sea, you know, not too far off. You know,
Oh, no,
has a
pretty
nice ring
close.
to it. Yeah,
Pretty close. Yeah.
yeah. So, let's see. What is something that not a lot of people know about you? Any fun facts that you'd like to share?
I have a massive what was I thinking? What's something that a lot of people know about me? I love board games. I love board games.
Me
And
too.
yeah, I think they're delightful. There's a game called Gloom where you get to kill your family, which is great. So I'll probably bring that up with my therapist really soon. That I love killing my family. And what's something else not a lot of people know, but they will know. I mean, my
Oh
friends
boy.
know. This is gonna really actually make me emotional bringing up, but I have seen Shrek the musical on Netflix so many times, like at
Oh
least 15
man.
times. It is like comfort food. I'll have it playing in the background for some reason, and I don't know why. I need to seek further medical help. The amount of times I've seen that. Anyway,
Oh
yeah,
well.
there's a couple things that are generic enough that people don't know.
Yeah.
How's that?
Trek the
Was that
musical.
yes? Was
Yeah.
that was that you what you were after? Does that work? I hope so.
Sure. Yeah.
Good, good.
Like I would ask favorite food or like cup of tea or, you know, just the boring stuff.
Oh, of course, of course. Cup of tea. Well, by the way, the best cup of tea is an Irish breakfast. So anyone who's listening, get Irish breakfast tea. It's the best one.
Yeah.
Earl Grey can
Oh
get it.
yeah. Trek the musical. You know, I do love the movies. I need to watch the musical and what's really interesting is that, like, for the movies that are kind of based on books or novels, I have not read many that are based on, like, I mean, like, but you gotta read the manga if you want to watch the animes, or if you want to watch like the shows, you gotta read the comic. Like, look, one of my favorite shows of all time is Batman the Animated Series, like Godspeed, Kevin Conroy. And I have not really familiar with the DC comics, but I do love the animated series.
Mm.
So, like, it just shows that you can just start with anything, just, you know,
Enjoy what you enjoy and don't let
enjoy.
people
Yeah.
gatekeep. And if you're trying to gatekeep something, it's like, who the
Yeah,
hell are
you're
you? You
yeah,
didn't create
you're doing
Batman.
something wrong.
You
Yeah.
don't have the right to gatekeep Batman. You didn't create it. You twit.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes.
Sure. Oh boy. But anyways, is there anything else that you got, I mean, that you can actually talk about? Like, I know we've discussed the studios, we've discussed like anything and everything, but what is something else that we can expect to see from Mr. Leigh Joel Scott? Great
What is something
Scott.
else? Great Scott. What's something?
Yes, probably not the first time you've heard that.
Oh my
I
goodness.
had to get that in there, man.
Well done.
I'm not
Well done.
apologizing for that one.
Yeah, I wish you would. What's something that? Oh,
Never.
there is a game coming out called Shatterline on PS5, which is a first-person shooter game. It's very exciting. You can play the game as me, which is very exciting. I'm one of the 5 playable characters. My character's name is Pill, and he's pretty bloody relaxed, mate. In fact, someone asked me the other day, they were like, is his name Pill because he's relaxed like a chill pill? And I realized that I've been in a like I've known this character because I recorded it a while ago for like a year and a half, 2 years. and I hadn't thought of that. So yes, I think that's why his name is Pill, because he's pretty bloody relaxed about everything, even the aliens invading. Who cares? So yeah, he's a cool cat. So wherever you can find Shatterline, it's a game coming to PS5. The beta version is currently on Steam, and it's getting amazing reviews. People are loving this game, which is really exciting. And I wish I was good at first person shooter games, so I could play with myself and it be legal. Yeah, really delightful stuff.
It's, Look, this is my hobby. I just like to kill people. I'm just a murderer. Yeah, that'll probably be a good side hustle.
Yeah, no, not
No,
bad.
yeah.
No, I'm excited to play the game, and play as me because I'm a narcissist. It's my favorite thing.
I mean, you gotta, you gotta.
You
But
gotta be you gotta
yeah.
be your biggest promoter.
Oh, totally. Yep, of course, of course. Let me see. Any last bit of advice? Just anything that you want to close us out on, just for running a business, pursuing a career, just I don't know, make good iced tea or whatever, just anything that comes to mind that you want to close us
Well,
out on.
don't make iced tea. Iced tea is terrible. Make real tea. Irish breakfast, let it steep 3 to 5 minutes, then add milk. But in regards to the career, um, just keep going. You will be absolutely shocked at the amount of people that fall away and quit. The amount of people that Australians that moved over to LA around the same time I did, was massive. And I'm the only one left. Everyone else went home. Um, if you commit long enough, things will happen. They have to, god damn it, because you've been working hard enough. So just keep going. Don't give up because you'll regret it. Or conversely, do give up. If you've had enough, quit because it's a hard job. It is a really hard job. And if you don't love it, literally do anything else because it will suck the life out of you if you do not love it. If it isn't the flame in your guts, quit, go home. And there's no shame in that whatsoever. Oh my God, there's no shame in quitting something at all. I quit soccer when I was 7 years old, and I haven't felt shame about it one day in my life.
Yeah, and
That's my
besides,
advice to people is quit. Save more jobs for me.
I was just gonna say we all have jobs, so just by all means. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Like, listen, we just gotta be real here and just say, like, if it really is something that you just have a burning, like it's just that fire that will never you. It's just something that you just cannot quench the fire. Just do it. Just Shia LaBeouf. Just do it.
Let's do
You
it.
know,
Yeah,
Nike. Just do it, and just do it for Lord Emperor Palpatine.
of
But
course.
yes, of course, of course. But anyways, yeah. What else? What else? Oh yeah, just feel free to self-promote your socials if people want to, check you out or
Or
whatever.
if people wanna follow me, my address is no. People wanna follow me. I'm on
Well,
Instagram and Twitter and TikTok.
just
Even though I have,
box your address on the
yeah, of course, throw it up.
podcast. Oh
My
gosh.
my Instagram and Twitter and TikTok are the same, even though I have no TikToks up just yet. My it is just my name, Leigh Joel Scott, LeighJoelscott, on everything.
Gotcha. And yeah, what can we expect? Like, I know you've got projects coming up, but where can we see the future in everything? Like, with Salt and Sea or just
Where can we
anything?
see the future of everything? That is a
I can
loaded
see
question.
the future of everything because I know we're still in a pandemic and stuff. So,
Yes.
at least for this year, pretty much. Let's just start with just, 2023 since we're just entering a new year.
Um,
January, is
like
almost over.
what do I have coming out in the next year, or what am I working on for the next year?
Uh, I you've mentioned the projects that you're working on, but how about what we can expect to see from, with Salt and Sea and just pretty much anything else?
Well, Salt and Sea have a few projects on the go, but the one I care most about is Zoe's Mythical Menagerie, of course, which is a
I
an
mean,
adventure podcast
obviously.
for cool kids. It's an adventure comedy podcast about a 9-year-old girl named Zoe who goes on a bunch of adventures to take care of mythical creatures, and it's exciting and funny and silly. And Brittany Cox plays Zoe, this bombastic 9-year-old girl, and I play a fusspot koala butterfly. So that's what the future has for Salt and Sea Studios. They've got a lot of other projects though. That one's most important because it has me in it.
Yeah. And also everything else is kind of under, the so-called NDAs and, all that.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, these are secret and it should not be leaked to online. If you do, I'll find you. I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. We'll find
So
you.
yeah.
We will kill you. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, would you like to do an outro for the podcast?
An outro for the podcast. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for listening and watching, and find me on Instagram.
Yes, we will find you. Yeah.
Good Lord. Yes.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. But anyways, that has been it for this episode. I just spit. Good Lord. Thank you so much for great way to close out this episode. Thank you for watching. Perfect. Yeah, be sure to catch this once this goes up on YouTube and everywhere else. I don't have much else to say, but this is Robert Jackson signing out, and until then, for anybody that are in like Central or South, like in this country, I hope y'all are staying safe from the storms going on. I know it's pretty rough right now, but as for us in California, we're just getting the good old sun. So yeah, over here if you want to. But anyways, thank you for watching. Stick around for next time. This is Robert Jackson signing out here, and until then, have a good one, folks. And until then, good night, everybody.
Dude.